Visualization. What does it mean? What does it not mean?
Nobody more than us understands the importance of good visual effects.
We have today the Viking with us to explain a little bit more about the mindset of men. What does it mean to be powerful in the midst of chaos in our world today?
Okay, procedure.
We're going to jump in to a couple studies we're going to provide in the comments for you guys. So make sure to like and subscribe and follow us for more tantalizing content.
Tantalizing. This is the question, Isaac. Do you visualize looking like me and Jordan?
No,
The
I
Viking.
think I visualize looking like a better version of myself because I'm a man. I don't want to look like you.
I mean, who do you look up to? Who's someone that you want to be like?
Ultimately, with my body type, I would say
I mean, do you might want to look like Peter Dinklage? Is that kind of who you're going
no.
for?
He's
I mean, in Game of Thrones, the dude's a G.
he's a G, yeah, and he makes a ton of money, but he's 4'10".
He has a beautiful wife, though. Have you seen that?
I mean, yeah, I want to ascribe to that, but I don't want to ascribe to look like him.
I'm pretty sure he's shorter than 4'10".
He's got to be like 4'8". Like you know, if you're under 4'10", you actually have to wear a seatbelt legally.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you'd do anyway.
All right, power visualization,
Power
ladies and gentlemen. That's what you came for. We're going to give you what you came for.
Yeah, that's
Jordan
true.
has a couple studies he wants to talk about, and we'll see where the conversation leads us.
All right. So, first of all, visualization. It is very easily mapped now through science. So, like, if something were to happen in the real world, the way it typically works is our visual cortex stimulates first, and then it goes up to the prefrontal cortex, at which point the amygdala is also activated to deal with the stress of the situation we're dealing with, right? So,
Okay.
let's say you watch someone get murdered in front of you, right?
That's very intense.
The visual
Jordan.
cortex takes that information. The prefrontal cortex, sort of processes that information, and then the amygdala will activate to deal with the stress of that situation. So the way that visualizing something works is the opposite. It triggers in our prefrontal cortex first, and then the visual cortex, it gets sent down to the visual cortex, which is why we can actually see what it is we're visualizing.
Is that where you see the trauma? Is that the prefrontal cortex takes in the trauma, or is that the amygdala?
That's the amygdala.
Okay,
The
so
amygdala is what deals with stress and trauma and all of that stuff, because that has to do with fight or
I
flight.
still keep picturing somebody being murdered in front of me. So
Ever consider, I don't know, not killing everyone you see?
Well, the only reason I stress that is because when you visualize something, let's say, you visualize yourself being, 50 pounds heavier, but like jacked, right?
Very strong men's in Bulgaria.
Part of the visualization process is dealing with the stress to get to that point. Okay. So, like I've said before, neurons that fire together wire together, right? So if you're constantly visualizing a goal, the amygdala is also going to be activated because it is an integral part of that process.
Interesting.
So the amygdala will also deal with the stresses of what you're visualizing. So that way, when it plays out in real life, it's nowhere near as stressful as if it just was something that happened to you.
Maybe that's why PTSD is such a horrible thing, because even though they've experienced it in the past, whether that be war or a horrible relationship, they then have the power, based on everything you just said, to visualize other horrible things happening, and therefore it kind of puts them in a state of panic all the time.
Yeah. So in terms of studies, there's a couple of good examples as to how visualization will actually help you reach your goals quicker.
Interesting.
There was a study done in 1950, very old study, but it was a practical study because they used people to prove their point. It was done in the University of Chicago. They took 90 people, separated them into 3 different groups. None of them had any previous basketball experience whatsoever, had never shot a basketball in their life.
Interesting.
The first control group, they had them shoot free throws every single day for an entire month. The second control group never shot a basketball that entire month, but visualized themselves every single day shooting a basketball, shooting free throws. The third control group did absolutely nothing. They shot no free throws. They visualized themselves shooting no free throws. So the first control group, the ones that actually did shoot every single day, improved their scores, improved the amount of baskets that they scored, their percentage by 20%.
Wow.
The third control group, obviously, made no improvements because they weren't practicing and they weren't visualizing. However, the second control group, the one that was just visualizing and didn't shoot a single basket the entire month, still improved their scores by 19%. Just 1% less than the people who actually did it every single day.
Visualizing.
Just by visualizing alone.
So if you can see it, you can have it.
If you see it, you can have it. And you have to make it consistent, right? It's a consistent daily visualization of what goal it is you want to achieve. There was another study that was done in 2004 from the University of Ohio, I believe it was. It was a exercise psychologist, right? And he did another study where he took, I can't remember the size of the control group, but he took two different groups of people who exercised for an entire month in weight training and people who only visualized themselves weight training. And at the end of the month, the people who actually did the exercise, their finger strength, their finger abduction strength increased by 54%. And the group that only visualized themselves lifting the weights still increased their grip strength by 40%.
Wow.
Little bit of more of a deviancy than just 1%, but that is still astronomical. That you
doing nothing.
For doing nothing other than visualizing yourself.
Well, I mean, you are
doing
doing something. You are visualizing, yourself
but not the
doing
physical
it.
aspect.
The physical execution layer isn't there, but the drop off is only 14%.
Only 14%.
That's incredible. That really goes into play. Why are we not being taught the power of visualization today?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I believe, the whole saying of mind over matter has been repeated so much that it's almost lost its potency. And people don't really understand how valuable that is.
I'm curious how that would even apply to business. Imagine if you're going into an interview and you imagine being an absolute G, just blowing them away. If you mentally prepare for that, I'm curious what would be the different results if they did that. Because a lot of people don't mentally prepare, and then they go into an interview and they're freaking out. They don't really know what they want to do. And even if you're starting your own business, what if you started to visualize people coming to you and wanting you to be a part of, helping their business grow, or different clients? What would be the powerful benefit of that? Because a lot of men, they don't understand the power of the mind. I feel like the power of the mind has kind of been pushed down, and people think it's all about what you actually experience and things you actually go through. If you go to the gym, live in the present, and just dominate your body in that moment. But what if you mentally prepared every day for where do you want to be? How successful do you want to be? What the difference would that be? Because these are very practical examples. I'm curious if they were to do something like that in business, of taking people that don't want to start a business.
Well, think about it
in
terms of the brain as well. What if you visualized, if let's say a lot of men out there, or even women, you struggle with pornography use, and it's fried your dopamine receptors to a point where you can't feel that same arousal or level of sexually aroused to the point where you feel off, and you have erectile dysfunction. There's a lot of things going on. What if you, instead of being sexually active and being promiscuous, you actually sat down on your bed and you visualized your brain being healed, or you visualized your dopaminergic receptors being unfried and restored back to their natural order, and the neuroplasticity in your brain, and speaking that, even visualizing it, but also speaking it out loud. I think there's a lot of power. Words have power. So if pairing words with visualization and speaking that truth, speaking that positive self-talk over yourself, actually. And we should put some studies in the comments as well about, the power of your words and how that pairs.
We'll get into that at some point. Yeah. There's a lot of studies on that as well.
And what does that do for your brain? Because in today's culture, we are so overstimulated by all of these false narratives and things being shoved in our face by social media. What if we took a break from that, put the phone down, sat in our bed, practice breathing, and visualize the man that we want to be, what would that do for your overall mental health, your physical health, and also your interpersonal relationships? They all go hand in hand. We're holistic on this channel. We want you to be healed in whole minds, body, and spirit. That is the encompassing reality of what we're talking about.
Yep.
And Jordan, I mean, that's fascinating what you're talking about. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Something I did one time, again, I also prayed because I do believe in prayer. But I spoke out into the, one time I had a headache, and it was a debilitating headache. I felt like a cold was coming on me. And this was actually when I was dating my wife. And so or about to date my wife. I was pursuing her, and I wanted to see her one night. And so I started to speak, I am not sick. I am going to go out and spend time with the woman that I love.
So mushy.
So mushy, yeah.
Uh-oh.
And so I started speaking that and then visualizing my situation. And literally within 5 minutes, I felt completely fine because I was speaking it out. You know, there's power in the tongue. Bible says that. And so there's power when you speak and visualize what you want to do. And I was fine, never got sick, but I felt it coming on. And I feel a lot of us, when we feel something come onto us, whether that be an emotional problem, whether that be having a headache, we take it on as that's who we are. I have this problem. It's never going to go away. Instead of starting saying no, because I know who I am and I know what I'm going to be, and I refuse to accept this. If we started to do that, I think that would drastically change how we feel every day. Sometimes I don't want to go to the gym, but I say, I'm going to work my body into shape and I'm going to do it. And then within 5 minutes, I'm like, how did I even think that way? You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of studies that are on the power of words as well.
Yeah.
The Bible doesn't just say there's power in the tongue. The power of life and death.
Yeah. Life
is
and
in
death.
the tongue. And, I'll include that, and, we can include that in the comments as well. I can't remember exactly who did the study and when it was, but there was a study where they took a species of plant.
Yep.
And they had 3 different rooms that they divided the plants into. Same exact plant, same exact temperature, same exact scenario in all 3 rooms, right? In one room, they played good, nice music. And every single day they came in and spoke blessings over the plants, right? Told them that they were beautiful, told them that they were going to grow nice and big, so on and so forth. In one room, they did absolutely nothing other than just grow the plants. They didn't play music for it. They didn't speak over it in any way, shape, or form. And in the third room, I think they played like death metal.
Yeah, very intense music.
And came in every day and, told the plants that they sucked and
Cursed at
they
them.
needed to die and like this, that, and the other. And I think it was after a month, the plants that they spoke blessings over actually grew to be bigger than what the plants normally would grow.
Wow.
Of course, the room that they just regularly grew the plants, they grew to be regular. And of course, in the room that they played death metal and, cursed the plants died. They didn't even make it. So there are studies that do show that there are power in words. And, perhaps that has to do with our own power of visualization. And perhaps they are connected. There are a lot of studies that need to be done on just how those two are connected.
Yeah.
Because the only way to really measure that is with active MRIs.
Yep.
And there's only so far you can take that into the day-to-day life because active MRIs require a lot of machines and
facts.
It's a hard thing to set up for controlled groups like that. But I think it's fair to assume that the power of words and the power of visualization are also linked together. So your scenario of I was sick, but I didn't want to be sick and I wanted to go hang out with Linda. So I, visualized myself not being sick while also speaking that over myself. There's a lot of power in that.
I've lived
Power.
in that.
So-
Water even has memory. You know?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I think
absolutely.
we'll go into that in another episode about the water and cellular memory and how that affects the brain, and the words have power. But
We do have books and supplements below, so we've said this in a previous video that if you want to look like this guy, workout obviously insane because this dude works out all the time. We work out with him. Like, subscribe. We get to 100,000 subscribers. We're shaving Isaac's head and making him walk around in a tutu. So please subscribe. We really appreciate your guys' support, but we'll probably end up doing like a Carolina Reaper pepper or something. But we'll have a lot of fun. We're gonna start our workout Instagram videos and shorts on YouTube probably next week. We appreciate you guys, but we'll see you in the next video.
Visualize your goals, people.
Let's go.